Hi, this is Rafe here again with another 2-Minute Tuesday. We're going to talk a little bit about dove season, kind of gear we need, guns, how to fit them. Now when I'm going through this, there is some science and then there's some opinion. So please, if you have another opinion, please make some comments. Let us know your thoughts and feelings. But this is just a good benchmark for you to go with. We're going to start out here with our shotgun. We're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to fit it to you. And so just to identify if this gun's going to be right for me is we are going to be putting it right in our elbow here and seeing where our trigger finger actually goes based off the actual trigger shoot here. We really need to see, especially me, this is going to be way too long. And when I try to perch up to a bird, I'm going to be way behind that trigger. I'm going to lose that shot because I'm actually taking that extra time to extend my hand up. Now whenever we have larger shooters, it's the same thing. We don't want to be too far forward where now we have to unfortunately get in the way of that trigger well. When we're looking at these, if you go with some of these nicer manufacturers, they're actually going to give you shims that will extend or decrease the whole length of the stock, which is going to help where that trigger finger is going to sit. And so when we're looking and we want to find something that fits, it may not initially fit off the floor because that's based off of what they quote unquote call average. And so one, can we identify that this gun's going to allow us to go shorter or longer? If it's not, then we maybe need to look at a gun that does. The last thing we want is to be out there, have this great shotgun, very, very nice shotgun, but if I went out there, I'm gonna miss birds. I'm really upset because I spent all this money, but I can't physically use it because I'm just different than what they consider average. So another point we have is really looking for durability. And so we have to identify what kind of shooting we're gonna be doing. So for dove, for upland, we can go with a little bit nicer of a platform. And so we have something that's really elegant, great. You're not gonna be looking as much into the elements because we're really gonna be more in that grassland, you know, seeing them going out and kind of going through the fields. Whereas when we go to waterfowl, we are going to be doing that. We're going to be, you know, getting our gun wet. We're going to be, you know, essentially duck love the elements. And so we're going to have rain potentially on us. We're going to have cold. We're going to have all these different things. So looking at a shotgun that's going to give you a little bit more durability is definitely a good idea. We're going to talk a little bit on also the gear that we're looking to have. One, camouflage. And so birds in general, they can see color. So when we're looking at high flying birds like duck, like dove as they can be, we want to make sure that we're nicely camouflaged. When we're doing more upland, when we're kind of flushing them out, you don't necessarily have to have as much camouflage because we're coming from, you know, the bird below up, so they're not going to see you. But anything that's a high fly, and we need to make sure we have good camouflage to make sure they don't see us well in advance to a good shot distance that we can do. So with that, I have mine. I've used this for years. It's essentially just a vest that has some spots for the shot shells, has a nice little game pouch in the back, so you got some nice bloody birds behind you, but it really does make everything nice and compact. One thing a lot of hunters I see do is that they go out, they don't have the pouches or something to put their birds in. They shoot all their birds, they put them on the ground and saying, perfect, I got my bird. Next thing you know, you get back to that and you got a bunch of ants all over your birds and they're essentially done for. So we really need to make sure we're getting something that can hold our birds so we can get them cleaned out and so we can have some nice barbecues afterwards. Moving on to chokes here. Essentially what a choke does is it is diverting the actual spread of those little BBs either tighter or more wide open. And so when we're looking at these, we really need to know what that does, is that when we're a little tighter, that gets us a little extra distance. So that keeps all the shot together for a longer period of time. And so with that, that's our idea of, you know, high flying duck versus, you know, pretty close dove, or, you know, later in the season, whenever the dove are a little bit more skittish, we need to move towards something a little bit tighter because we know they're going to be a little further away from us. So what I like to do personally is beginning of season, I like to go improve cylinder because I know that, you know, a lot of them aren't going to be as skittish. They've had a whole year to know that, hey, I'm not going to get shot at. Now when it's going further in the season, I switch to a modified, which comes in most of them automatically. And so that modified is going to get us a little extra distance. It's going to keep everything a little more refined. So you got to be a little bit better, but hopefully at the end of that season, you're already looking very efficient. Once again, please put your opinion on the bottom as well. It does help everyone to know, like, hey, this wasn't working for me. Rafe doesn't know what he's talking about. I tried modified and I'm missing every bird. Well, then try something else. You know, have the others help you. This is a community whenever we're talking about hunting. So just finalizing here, we do have our slings, definitely a must-have. You want to make sure that that's something while you're trekking around, you can sling that shotgun around. It really will save you. Even if you get a super light gun, if you get out there for 4 or 5 hours, you're gonna notice it. And so really a good idea to have a good sling. Once again, trying to stay with that camo pattern if you can. And then last but not least, we need to make sure we have a good set of eyewear as well as good ear protection. Some of the best ones out there are the ones that you can actually have the amplification but are tight to your head. And so ones that go in your physical earbud. And so with that, if we're out and about hunting, we want to hear the animal, but we don't want to be muffled. We'll use those electronics. So we'll actually hear that rustle behind us. And then when we physically shoot, it turns off. Really, really great, especially when it protects our hearing, still gives us everything we want for hunting. We're doing something a little bit different on the end of this video, just because we know this was a very long, lengthy, but we really appreciate you listening to the whole thing. So for the first 10 people that comment below dove season, we're gonna give you some free range time. We really appreciate you watching our videos. Once again, this is Rafe from Mission Ridge Ranging Academy with another 2 Minute Tuesday.